Anyone coming? So we can. Oh.
Oh, yeah. God, that did hurt.
Okay, that's actually what I was trying to say. I feel like I'm that far. They look pretty close. They are great.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to our University Town Hall. My name is James Patterson. I am the SGA president, and tonight I will be serving as our moderator for the night. The way that this will work, I'm going to let each of the panelists, which are all administrators, introduce themselves so that you guys know who they are. I'm going to allow VP Wright and VP Windsor to give about a 5-minute spiel on any type of summary you want to let us know. Once those two finish their spills, this is going to be open floor. I have here about 40 questions that I've compiled from a survey that you guys filled out. These are what I believe are the most pressing issues and questions that were getting repeated to be answered. But of course, after we ask the question and they give us an answer, if you are not satisfied with the answer, you can keep digging. I will keep digging on you to keep asking questions. Everything. All right, get started.
evening, everyone. I'm Janae Shakespeare Fields, Fiscal Services Controller. I'm gonna pass this on.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Serena Davenport. I'm the Deputy Chief of Police here.
Hello, everyone. My name is Ron Braid. I'm the Senior Vice President for Administration and Chief Operating Officer for Safeway.
Hello, I'm Joe Rosa, the VP for Enrollment Management.
And I'm Curtis Wright, the Vice President of Student Affairs. So as Jay said, I'm going to begin by talking a little bit about the housing process. And then I'll pass the mic to VP Munza, and he's going to talk about the enrollment process. So because I've heard, some of you may have seen me over on the shuttle a lot this weekend. And I was driving to Loyola, I heard people saying, you know, there's 3,000 people in the freshman class. There isn't. So I want him to talk about how do we build a class so that you understand the art and science of the enrollment process, such that then hopefully begins to make a bit more sense about how we came to the class and then how we house it. So I'll start with the housing process, which is a little bit out of order, just so you can understand that much, because we've been working on that for quite some time. How many of you are juniors or seniors? Okay, perfect. So, and I asked that question because 2 semesters ago, we were running into situations where we were having wait lists when we started the application process in February. So we opened the housing process up. We have a formula that we use based on the number of students who are enrolled in housing. We take about 75% of that, and then that's how we hold our beds for the next year. And that number is generated by the app that we use. And so for our seniors, there are fewer seniors, of course, than there are freshmen based on who's coming back. So there's normally about 750 beds held for freshmen. And then percentage of those go up for, so maybe 200 for sophomores, 200, 300 for sophomores, 200 for juniors, 150 for seniors, right? And now those aren't the right numbers, but that gives you a proportion of how the housing is assigned. So what we found a couple of years ago was that as soon as we opened the housing formula, and many of you were juniors and seniors who did the housing selection process, but I was on at 7 o'clock, and by 7 o'clock, all the beds in the course were gone. And all the beds in this place was gone, right? Partly because we have priority housing for Board of Trustee scholars and athletes who have scholarships. So those beds are put in before any other student gets to select housing. So it could very well be that the senior got on at 9 o'clock in the morning, and by 9 o'clock, all the available beds for seniors were gone. So this year, what we decided to do, actually started that work in about July of last year, is identifying an alternate place so we can add more beds to our inventory. We have about 1,400 beds available for students between St. Mike, KD, LMC, and DeForest. A few years ago, we added about 400 beds over at UNO. And then last year, due to the work that was done in DeForest, we had about 400 beds at LSU, with the idea that we would bring those students back this year. So as we began this academic, the planning for this academic year last fall, we were in our minds thinking we're going to have those people back. We're going to get another apartment complex or some sort of place to imagine a lease so that we could relieve the juniors and seniors who typically are waitlists until late summer, right? So around June, July, we began conversations of 2023, conversations with Parkway Middle, right? We were going to master lease about 80% of their building. And so we did all that process, we worked through it. It felt like everything that we needed was there. Around January, we followed back up with them. Everything seemed to be on target. In February, we opened the housing board so that you could then begin picking, such that in March, there were nobody on the wait list because everybody had a bed based on the numbers that we had come up with. Fast forward to around May, we're meeting with Parkway NOLA, and they're informed that HUD, which is one of the ways that they fund, they get money from housing urban development to fund their building, said that they cannot master lease more than 10%, which is 27 apartments at their building, due to the way that they're funded, because the funding is used for the new residential, not for the new commercial or university housing. So we said, as an institution, can we master lease? Can we be their co-signers? Can we be their guarantor? such that anybody who lived at Parkway knows we would be, where your parents would fill out the application, we would be those people, they would use our payment strategies and just pull it out of our accounts monthly. They said, we don't see why not. A couple of weeks later, they came back and said, DC said no, that payment has to come directly from the student. They have to submit their own application. They have to pay individually. The institution can't pay for you or can't be even a co-signer on it with you. And that if you get paid, we will pay for it. So thus, we began sending out emails to anyone who was listening at Parkway Knows saying, here's what's going on. If you choose to live there, this is what the rates will be, and this is how you work with this. However, anyone else, we're going to go back into the campus. And at that point, we asked Ms. Calvin to go talk to any of the residence halls in the city. So we talked to UNO, they gave us a handful of beds. We talked to Loyola, they gave us the beds. And as you remember, July 17th, around that time is when we do fiscal clearance. So if you're not paid, you get dropped. And every year we anticipate roughly 100 students will be fiscally dropped because they haven't met the financial enrollment process. And so we were confident and we were able to move everybody either to the fiscal clearance drop or to a bed at Loyola or UNO, Proposition Hall specifically. So, which meant for most of everybody that's in this space, they were perfectly fine. And then when the VP talks more about the enrollment process, we would understand a bit more. So as we got further into the summer, we've done the fiscal clearance drop. We began to see an uptick in applications that had for our first year students. First year students, all the applications closed in May, but there were a handful of students who had applied during Lanyard, and the credit card machine wasn't working. So when they applied their account, they paid the bill with cash, and it was put on their account as a payment. But when you pay your housing deposit, it goes into a very different space. So the housing office did not see that payment that was applied because it wasn't put in when I paid with using my credit card in the housing department portal. So there were maybe 30 to 50 kids who had paid a deposit but didn't have an application ever released to them because it didn't trigger it in the system. So it's common to go into the system to open it up to allow those students to have housing or to fill out an application because they paid a deposit in April. And when she did that, there were around 100 more kids who quickly went in and applied for housing, which took that number from 30 to 50 to about 150, which then meant now we've got 150 freshmen who think they have beds. And began, like many of you, calling and saying, where's my bed? I haven't seen my bed in my portal. What's going on? So we then began looking for additional beds, which is why some of you, particularly the Board of Trustees and athletes who were housed in the forest, were then moved. Because as we, and as those of you raised your hand earlier, there were folks earlier, 3 years ago, when we had to move the then seniors, the then juniors and seniors, so that the freshmen, which were you, would have beds on campus. So that's ultimately what we ended up doing, was shifting upper class students so that the first year students would have beds in the forest or any space on campus. And of course, the only space because LLC is offline. On move-in weekend, we had an additional 30 kids, 35 kids who showed up with no housing on their record from Chicago, from Atlanta, from Texas, and were going to be homeless. And so we then had to move about 40 people to the Hilton, which is how the Hilton shifts happened. Some people, I just want to make sure we explain, some people say, yeah, I got moved a couple of times, and that's probably right. What happened was, Pierre Deans came back early to move in. They were, the ones that were supposed to be placed in Parkway, got put at Loyola. Well, at Loyola, they couldn't move in when the Pierre Deans arrived back. So then we had to put the Pierre Deans in a bed that we own, that we could move in. So you may have seen Pierre Deans going into beds at UNO, which meant your space at UNO is pushed because they need a bed at that moment because they're here. And Loyola doesn't open the residence halls up for a couple of more weeks. And so you saw shifts going around, but that's why we're trying to make sure that everybody who shows up has a safe bed to sleep in. And as a result, we found ourselves where we are. The goal is by Wednesday. So right now, and this is happening at every college campus, if the two of you are roommates, and or two of you live next to each other, your roommates didn't show up. We're doing what's called consolidation. I've done it every university I've worked. So beds are consolidated. So if you have an empty bed in your room, either you're gonna move into another room, or that person's gonna move into your room, so that we can then take the kids from the hotel and put them back on campus. So by Wednesday, everybody should be out of the Hilton Hotel, back onto campus, that would be in the days when people weren't there anymore. So that's to give you a clear and understanding of how we found ourselves in the situation that we found ourselves in. I hope by Wednesday, everybody will get a hotel and I can take any questions after that. But I want to give Vicky Munson the opportunity to talk about the enrollment process so that you get a better picture of how we build the class, and that you also know that there are not 3,000 freshmen.
Well, there's a couple of things that I want to address. I heard about the rumors of that we brought in 3,000 new students, which is not even close to the reality. Before I go through the process of what happens when we recruit students, let me, by just showing of hands, how many of you applied to come on now? Come on now, yes. All right, and how many of you who put their hands up only saying one applicant? They said they only selected one institution on that coming up. Nobody, right? What about 15 institutions? 15. More than 15. All right, you see how many of you, one application, you have the flexibility to select as many institutions as you should choose. Now, what happens is that for every institution, we look at historical trend. We look at an analysis to try to figure out what is the behavior of applicants as they come through our university. So you will understand that if you have a goal of bringing in a certain number of students, you have to look at the historical conversion throughout the funnel. What I mean by the funnel is from the time a student applies. So that's an applicant. And then when you complete your application, you render a decision, you become an admitted student. And then from there, you go and submit your deposit. After submitting the deposit, then you matriculate to become a student and then register to enroll. Now, historically, we know that we get about 20% of the students that submit their deposit end up not showing up. Now, we had a goal of enrolling 800 freshmen this year. Now, to be able to get to that goal, based on the different conversion rate, we calculated that we needed to have at least 9,000 applications submitted. Now, we admit somewhere between 65 to 69% of the applications submitted. And so now you're talking about somewhere around 6,000, a little more than 6,000 admitted students. And then from there, we needed to have at least 1,000 students deposit. With that historical amount that we usually get of 20%, that we predict that we're going to end at 800. So we did not bring in 3,000 students. As you've seen, a lot of you apply to many institutions. Now, we don't know what you are thinking, right? So we cast a wide net and trying to figure out who is going to make that decision to actually choose us. Just like we're recruiting you, you are also recruiting us, so to say. You're trying to figure out what institution is the best deal for you financially wise, what is the best fit for you, what is an institution that where you feel like you're going to thrive. So it's a matter of, it's sort of, we're guessing, but we're guessing based on historical trend, if that makes any sense. So we did not bring in 3,000 students. The number of students actually that are here who are fiscally clear is 845 students. Those are the new freshmen. And we know that not all of them are going to show up. There are some that are clear, there are some that maybe decided at the last minute they're gonna go to another institution. Obviously, as we heard VP Rod talk about the housing, the uncertainty around the housing, there are some of those freshmen found it a little bit not, for lack of a better word, secure situation, decided to either postpone next year, and others decided to go to another institution. So that's really quickly about the enrollment process. So hold on, let me just say one last thing. And when it comes to financial aid, in the last town hall, there was an issue, there was a topic that was brought up where they stated that when a student brings an external scholarship, we end up underwriting the academic scholarship for Xavier for the same amount of what they're bringing in. And your president sent me a list of examples of students who say that they experienced this issue. I reviewed that list, and I came to realize that all of those cases that I saw, these are students who receive a replacement scholarship. So in other words, a donor gave money to Xavier to help with scholarship. Remember that a lot of the academic scholarship that we give out is really, we are discounting. It's not really giving you real cash, so to say. But we have other donors that help us to make sure that we can help as many students as possible. So when you see a certain line that comes in from a Xavier funded scholarship, it's not an external scholarship. It's really another source. We're just replacing what you already have with a different source. Now, if you got a scholarship from UNCF, for instance, that scholarship will sit on top of whatever Xavier has already given you. So I'll just kind of show, I know you're going to ask more questions about that, just for the sake of time. Let's go with the questions.
Appreciate it. Before I move on to the questions regarding housing, regarding the scholarship displacement that VP Muta just spoke on, does anyone have any specific example that's from an external scholarship? No? Okay, we'll move on. So the first question that I received, which regarding roommate changes, which I think you might have just spoke on, but they asked why roommate switch is being done without an explanation, and why were students not entitled to the roommates and housing assignments that they chose before the semester ended. We did speak on that last part of the question. But can you speak on the beginning part?
So, I wish I could have a very specific example, but in the situation where if you selected your roommate, so for example, we knew that the students who were being moved from Parkway NOLA, 99% would not have a room that they asked for, because at that point, we're trying to get people in beds. So any room that had an open bed, we're putting a body in. So if the two of us were roommates, then there was not very likely that we would have, because there probably wasn't a room that had 2 empty beds in it. So we were simply trying to get everybody a bed. And in roommates, that was not a priority, it was really we had somewhere to sleep. But I'm not sure if that's the specific situation that somebody was asking about or not, because I want to be able to make sure.
And also, if the question that I asked does sound like it was your question and they need more clarification, please speak up and let them know that so that they can try to better address the situation. But does anyone have any questions regarding what you just said? All right. Yes, ma'am.
I think the biggest part of that question, what's your reflection is more practically affordable to something, because especially for some of us, it was a post on page where you said, hey, my roommate was switch, and then people look at the system and their room will switch. So it's just the open communication with the students will be helpful. It would maybe know why that wasn't happening.
Sure. So, and now, are you speaking about the Parkway NOLA space?
Just in general.
Right.
Throughout the entire course.
Right. And I'm looking at this because I'm not sure of a situation. There may be one, I don't know.
But we had me and my roommate had a similar situation where, there's three of us, but we were housed at UNL. And there was a situation where one of us got moved out, and they put two other people in, or one person was staying in an apartment that they gave us, and put the other two people somewhere else, and then we sent emails, and then they put one person back in the apartment, and they left the other two somewhere else, and then sent more emails, it was like the same apartment that we had already picked in. Whenever we did the housing application, but they kept moving us around, and then one person sent the email, and the response to the email was like, hey, send everybody's numbers and names, and everybody needs to respond to say they agree with the roommates, and we all responded, and she was the only person that wasn't moved by our apartment. But we weren't told hey, your roommate situation is getting switched, how's it getting switched if everybody, we agree previously?
And I don't know, because if, for example, with regards to the moving folks out of Parkway NOLA, again, we were just putting people where they could go. And when we sent them email saying, and we have the town hall meetings, the virtual town meetings, we said clearly, you're not going to be able to, we doubt you're going to have those agreements. But I don't know in your situation. I think I can follow with Calvin and Jalen to figure out exactly in some very specific situation. But the goal is not to move people unless they're requesting to be moved, right? And so I'll have to get more information from them, and I'll share with Jay.
So listen to your situation. Sometimes your roommates send us emails asking them to lie. Sometimes your roommates. So one thing that actually also happens at times, specifically in this situation, I will tell you what, it is almost virtually impossible to email all of you as we were making switches. So if you all saw me sending you all emails in the dead of night, it's because I'm actually actively working on doing it. So some of the methodology that VP Wright is mentioning, as we were having to move students out to accommodate first-time freshmen, literally what was happening, let's just say you moved in early because you're a period, but your roommate did not move in early. I'm going to take that other bed, and I have to shift that person out. So that's what ended up happening. In your situation, I'm not exactly sure. I do want you to come to my office tomorrow, because I would have to look behind the computer and see exactly what happened. But I can tell you the movements that we had to do, and I've explained this to VP Wright as well. There's going to be a 5% chance of marginal error. And I say that in the sense of, I had a handful of peer deans that were reassigned in the system that were already here. So Ms. Jalen, who was in the office actively working on this, I had to get her to put those students back in. So if you look in your portal, you see multiple moves and multiple changes, that is part of the reason for them. But every situation, I can tell you that we were actually moving, the goal is to always keep you all together. However, the likelihood of that happening was very, very small. The only people I really could keep together is those people that had to shift and concentrate home. And that's only because they were fully open spaces. The beds that we obtained at Loyola, we started off at 60 beds. Then I ended up being able to increase it to 118. However, I could not put everyone together. That's how some of you ended up in Beaver Hall, for instance. And I know you all don't like it because it's a freshman style living facility. However, that's the only spaces that we had. So that's how some of you got moved, along with the students that did not fiscally clear. So I want you to imagine a couple of different things happening. We're trying to assign first-time freshmen. I'm trying to reassign students that did not fiscally clear in time, but they showed up, in addition to student leaders that did not fiscally clear, but still showed up. So unfortunately, it wasn't the most ideal situation, but each and every one of your situations, if you were impacted, it's specific. And I do encourage you to stop by Ms. Jalen's office. If I'm available, I wouldn't tell you really tomorrow if you stop by on Wednesday, I would have more time. but I can tell you specifically what happened to your situation. But I can tell you it's virtually impossible to respond to each and every one of you guys' emails, only because at one point in time, I was getting a couple hundred emails a day, and I'm still responding to some of those emails. But again, the math and the methodology behind how we did it is very specific to each student. So your answer is going to be very different than her answer and everyone else. And again, but I do want you to stop by. What's your name? Maya. Stop by my office on Wednesday and schedule an appointment.
And so getting to the, I guess, the root concern that the student was talking about. I got you. Getting to that root concern, so are you saying, is there no way when something does happen, like a change, the students can be informed that this change happened, rather than having to go out and look and then get surprised if the change
In
occurs?
the portal, that's the message communication, is in the portal, this will say the room. No, we're not going to be able to say, hey Chase, hey James, hey Carla, hey Betty, hey Bobby, your roommate has been changed. That's the quickest way that we can get it to you, because by the time we get to Bobby, he's heard on his, and his roommate hadn't been contacted yet. So that's how we can get to everybody, is through the portal. It's like your email, that's your university tool of communication.
Thank you for that. And I just, before I begin, I'd like to say thank you guys for taking the time to come out and answer these questions. When Ms. Calvin was talking, a couple of different things were alarming to me. One, the fact that she's working in the dead of night to take care of us. I don't think that's right, and I think it speaks to the fact that she doesn't have enough help in the housing office. And I want to know if there are steps being taken to rectify that, because I believe she would have had more help. Things like communication about why our housing assignments are changing, where we're going, et cetera, things like that could have been taken care of had she had the staff and help. So what's going on? What are you guys doing to rectify that?
Very good question, and thank you. So, and I really want to appreciate you for recognizing that they are, I will say, doing their level best. So many of you remember Ms. Jean-Jacques. She passed away very unexpectedly in the middle of the summer. And she was the one who was answering the phones, checking the emails, doing that sort of stuff, so that the other people could be in the system. So when she passed away, we began searching for her position. And some people probably have a bit, I remember saying to Ms. Calvin on the morning that she passed away, so go down to the HR and get a tip. And for some people, you need time to mourn and grieve, right? I don't want to replace your chair immediately, right? So they've been working with staff in the office to cover that, but Ms. Jean-Jacques filled a very big space, and now that void is there. We have advertised for a director. So Ms. Calvin, I've asked her to take on some different responsibilities within the student affairs division, so she is now the associate dean. So we're hiring a director of Brazil. And nationally, we've gotten really great applications, and we're excited about that. The only thing is, if they're good, they're not leaving before housing, before moving, because they're not going to leave their current institution in a bond. And so we respect the fact that the candidates who are not willing to come to campus before they concluded their work at their other institution. So we're in the last phase of identifying a person who will come in that will serve as a director of that office to take that burden off, which will then be able to provide and will replace Ms. Jean-Jacques' role very soon as well, which will get us back to the staff that we need to be able to move forward.
And is there no timeline that you can give for that?
Ideally, I would like in the next 3 weeks, but it really is once we make an offer, that person then needs to close out where they are. Because I think there may be one that's local to Louisiana, there's folks in California, there's folks in Ohio. So they would need to, so we would hopefully, I would want within a month for sure with the director, because they're traveling their family across country. But maybe before that, it really depends on their schedule. Yeah. And what she's saying is that this is one of those times that it is busy anywhere we go in housing. It is that busy time. But that being a very busy time, plus being theoretically two people course down, made it even more. And there are some spaces where you can hire people really quickly that can do the work. And in this work, because the systems are so intricate, you have to be trained on the system and understand the system, or else it becomes even more traumatic. And I know that Ms. Jaylin was in there, in the system, answering phone calls, and taking people as they walk in the door. And so, and without getting too personal, there are a few people within the area who are the medical boxes for family members who are dying. So they're in and out, right, to attend to their dying grandparent, or parent, right? So all of that, as life is happening, that doesn't mean that you still don't deserve your email response. And I'm not making an excuse, I'm just trying to help you get a better understanding of why, right? She's answering the email at 3 o'clock in the morning, or as soon as I finish here, I'm hopping on the shuttle, driving back and forth to the closest hotel, right? Because when we short staffed, everybody does what they need to do, and we rest when we get it all smoothed out. But I really do appreciate you asking, because I do want people to know that they are working hard, even if you don't see it, because they're at 3 o'clock in the morning, they're still trying to get it done. And we're trying to fill out the process. But ideally, I'd like to have somebody hired within the next 3 weeks on campus.
So the second question that I have, or that was given, is can online classes be offered as an option for students displaced due to lack of housing?
So the provost isn't here. She thinks that she's not here because we spoke with her this morning. But I would say that she would say if she were here, no. Because unless you're in a program with online classes, we're not accredited to do online classes, right? So New Hampshire University, that's what they do. So that when they went and got accreditation by their accredited board of states, they specifically were doing that because they've been trained in that level of instruction. Our faculty are brilliant, but they're not trained to do online education as a matter of course. And there are some who are, and those classes are online. But no, like if you're taking temperature right now, you have to have a physical class.
Got you. For the third question, this is regarding Parkway. I do understand what happened, what went wrong with the process, but a student wants to know why wasn't the agreement finalized before it was proposed as a housing option? And housing administration begins to address after.
Yeah, that's a very good question. And quite honestly, we were very confident in what we were doing. That may not be a sufficient answer for you all, but it is what it is, right? We were very much in 100% agreement. They were talking to people at HUD. I know the undersecretary, and he says that this isn't a problem. So we have to take them at their word. But we also wanted to make sure that we did not, that in February, if the seniors were looking for places, they wouldn't have to be on the wait list. Because that was the alternate, was to wait until, what we typically see is wait until after all the new students are placed. We open the housing portal back up in May, and then we have seniors and juniors looking for housing at that point. And for just as a few months, I'm saying there were freshmen who probably applied in July, who they said housing was secure enough, so they didn't want to come. I would much rather that freshman in July decide that they don't want to come than a senior in February, April, or March saying, well, I don't have housing. So that's why we wanted to go with it as soon as possible. Well, we know now some lessons learned. We've got to ask questions about your programs. And we've got to get in writing from them early on. Whether or not they have the capacity, the legal authority to match release their buildings. Because to be clear, we're going to be in this situation again because LLC might not be ready by fall 25. So as a result, we're meeting Thursday to begin trying to plot out places for students so that we can begin these conversations, so that we, by January, when we open the housing board in February, we'll have master leases signed for them. But that's what we've learned specifically from this situation, is who's your funding source, and are you able then to sublet essentially?
I was just wondering, why did DP take so long to review, and why is the other taking so long?
Right, so the course was always scheduled to take that amount of time. So we knew we were gonna be out of the course for a year, and we were scheduled to open it back up when we opened it back up. And so that's just how much work that, because literally they went in, if you've gone into the building, I don't know if you, how many of you are in there, they replaced the floors, they did stuff in the walls, they had to go in and do some duct work. So every room was touched by somebody. So the work that needed to happen makes it almost a brand new building. And similar work is going to happen in the Living Learning Center. That's all I have here.
I'm gonna bring up something that you talked about earlier, but I know he asked about external scholarships, so I didn't really want to bring it up. But, I'm a fourth year Board of Trustees scholar, so everything that I do in school is paid for. However, I received over $16,000 in extra scholarships last semester. They were applied to my account, and then I didn't apply for them, not that I accept them, but I was sent something saying, that I have to write a letter of thanks to my donors and so on and so on. Yes, thank you to the donors. However, I did accept my Board of Trustees scholarship from, I guess, the Board of Trustees. So I'm wondering if they can afford to pay my full scholarship, then why are they offering it? One. Two, the other people are getting these scholarships, and I know plenty of students in this room are struggling. They're working, they're begging their parents for money, they're taking out loans. They can't pay for housing. So why am I getting $16,000 on top of my $40,000? Money that I can't use because I don't receive a refund check. So I'm getting all of this extra money, which is being reabsorbed, and I know you're saying that it's internal, but that kind of seems like a sorry excuse whenever the school is absorbing this extra money and it's not being given to the students who are struggling. If anybody in here is struggling to pay, raise your hand. Oh, yeah, so I figured a lot of people were struggling and wondering what kind of period. It does feel like a sorry excuse. And my tuition is paid for, so I don't really have to advocate. I really can just, I can cruise through, but I really feel like that's unfair when I see my peers struggling and I see them commenting on bids and they're going through all of this extra strain on top of the strenuous academics that you guys are really, boasting, and then the students are struggling to get money and you're giving the money to me and I already got it. That's my
All right. Well, this is a great question, and I'm glad you asked. Thank you for asking this question. And I'm hoping it's going to give me an opportunity to enlighten you in terms of what happens behind, in the background of what we do to make sure that we provide the support to as many students as we can. In your situation, you did not apply for that scholarship. And so $16,000 was applied to your account, but you did not get a refund because it wasn't really a scholarship, it was a replacement. In other words, your Board of Trustees was what I would call a write-off, right? And so in order for us to be able to help many students in here who don't have the same scholarship as you have, when we give funded scholarship, we will put it on an account like yours. Whatever the $16,000 that we pull from you, we're able to help somebody else. There are many of you that have scholarships this year. And I remember that the policy says, if you lose a scholarship, if your GPA falls below 3.0, and you lose that scholarship, you cannot regain it. But there are many of you that got exceptions this year to have at least 50% of your scholarship back, to give you a grace period to get your GPA back in place. Because we recognize that it's virtually impossible for you to be able to afford paying out of pocket full price. And so we're working with you to try and get you that extra help. So the $16,000 that will come to you as a refund went to somebody else.
Hold on, Ari, hold on.
Are you saying that perhaps that main scholarship that she qualified for, but that she got that team may not
May not qualify for it. So yeah, that's a good way to put it. So donors will give certain money and give us a criteria. I'm gonna give this money, but you can only give it to a student that has these academic performance, for instance. They have this much need. And so, which is why we run a process and automatically we see who qualify for those funds. Now, when we come to the funds that we pull from your existing scholarship, because it's an institutional money, we have a little bit of flexibility to give it to somebody else who may have not qualified for the $16,000. So in other words, we're just switching the source of funds. Now, the reason why they ask you to write a scholarship is really just to show appreciation to our donors who are making it possible for you to receive these funds and for us, to the institution, to be able to afford it. And our student is able to get the additional funds that you lost. There are many of you, actually, in the last probably 48 hours, you went in your portal and found money on your account that you did not apply. Anybody in this room who can put their hands up there? You see that? There are hundreds of students in the last 2 weeks that received scholarship. They did not apply for them. The reason we looked at your situation, first, you were not fiscally clear. And we realized that if we don't help you, you're not going to be able to clear. And so we saw your needs and gave you the additional funds to be able to help you continue to find Xavier affordable and accessible. So that is what happens in the background. This is not an external scholarship. It's not stacking up on your existing scholarship. It's really just replacing that discount with an actual funded scholarship so we can help somebody else. Go ahead.
This is from the live, this is the live stream questions. This is one of the live stream questions, and they basically are asking, why are they being overcharged in-house at Loyola? And is there anything that y'all can do about the theft and racism that they are experiencing, and the shuttles not being reliable to them, and them not being able to access things on Loyola's campus?
So, I'm gonna try to take that, and I may need you to repeat back some of the things. Yeah, so with regards to the rates, we're charging exactly what we're not profiting. So we're charging the students exactly what we're being charged. However, for the board of trustees and athletes who did not have the option, now there are some students who waited to the last minute and you got placed there, that's the only house that was available for you. You get, if you want housing, then you pay what that fee is. But for those students who did not ask to be placed there, that we involuntarily moved them, right? We're working with our colleagues in fiscal services to change the cost of attendance, because your cost of attendance changed, which then, of course, means the monies that you receive. So if you weren't paying for housing, we're not going to make you now pay the difference, if that makes sense, right? So we're working with them now. If you did not have housing and you came in at the very last minute and needed housing, then that's your bill, right? Because that's the only housing that we have available for you to have access to. The theft and the racism. I've not heard about the theft or the racism, but I'd like to hear more about it. I meet every month with their vice president. I went to Rome this summer with their president, who is an African American male. So I'd like to know what this is so that I can have a conversation with him. And I'd also like to be able to make sure the chief is able to talk to their chief of police about whatever the theft is. And so whoever that is, they can send me a note. I can then follow up and advocate with them. And then the last thing.
classroom and not being access to give the access.
Sure. So that's 2 seconds. So the shuttle, so like I said, some of you saw me, so that.
I'm gonna come back to that.
Okay.
Somebody else.
I'll come back to that. And then accessing, we could provide that, but that would be at an expense. And so that's why we didn't say, because they want to make money. They're like, they can use our gym for this money. So we didn't want to put those fees back on to the students. So that's why we didn't do that. And I know.
So someone asked, will students who have been displaced receive any form of compensation for the inconvenience that they've endured?
The ones who were displaced at the Hilton were, how many of you are at the Hilton? You did the Hilton? Okay, so the ones who are at the Hilton, because we're moving them again this week. So they were given their books and they were given $500 stipend.
Why not? Because as a board of trustees, why not? Because as a board of trustees started at 1 week prior to coming, I feel like we were inconvenienced just as much. Like from going to think I'm saying in BP with brand new facility with our own bathroom as roommates to going, I'm in people home. So to be moved all the way to communal bathrooms, I feel like that was a very big inconvenience for us. So I feel like we deserve a stipend or do something.
I hear you. However, we're not able to.
Can we get a reason as to why you're saying you're not able to?
Because right now, as you've heard, there are students struggling to pay their tuition and housing. And specifically for our board of trustees, they're not. And I want to make sure that every student has access to housing and every student has access to food that's safe and reliable. And so I'm just being as transparent as it can possibly be. I can't pay for the inconvenience of not having a bathroom in your room, but I know that some of the folks at the Hilton's have to take up Uber, that some of the folks at the Hilton might have to eat out, right? And I want to be able to make sure that if you have to eat out, you've got money to be able to eat out down there, because it's not that. You have to be able to take an Uber, that you've got those resources to be able to do that. And we're going to not only move you to a space, right? They may come back to St. Mike or a KD or a Beaver Hall, wherever there's a bed open, but they're moving in the middle of the second week of school. So that is the inconvenience fee, is that they're having to now repack. Some of them didn't even get to unpack. Some of them still stuff in storage. So that's why we felt that it was necessary to provide them with that inconvenience fee. It's not because they didn't go to the bathroom, it's because they are at a hotel, they're traveling right now. And I want to make sure, and I don't want anyone to think that we just were nilly-willy and you go stay wherever. But I absolutely want you to understand the sacrifice that they have made, not at their expense at all. Not that your sacrifice is any less, but you don't have a chance of football games and all the different people traveling to the hotel as your next door neighbors. So that's why they got that.
Dr. Wright, so I want to get a good understanding. You said that there are going to be adjustments made to this Board of Trustees scholars who have been moved to Loyola, and there's a balance right now in their account.
It will be the cost of attendance. So your cost of attendance has changed.
Right.
Your scholarship covers your cost of attendance. So your aid will reflect the cost of attendance.
What happened last year? Did that happen as well? Because I personally, my scholarship wasn't adjusted after I was moved to the residences, and I had to come out of pocket for a payment. So will I receive reimbursement?
I'm looking at Mrs. Checks on bill because that's what we were under. I don't know, honestly. I can't say that you're going to be reimbursed last year, but I can say that that has been the conversation that we've been having and I've been advocating to make sure that our cost of attendance reflects what you actually charged for.
Who would I need to speak to? Because I went to see a lot of people last semester and I was moved from one person to the next person to the next person to the next person, and then was told to just go ahead and pay it because then I wouldn't be able to register for my classes. And so I'm just trying to get a good understanding here.
Right. And the reason that I was under the impression it was is that financial aid requested a list of all Board of Trustees, they're the ones who applied that, so that they could attend to that. But I'm going to work with, Ms. Kiana James is here. Where's your office located, Ms. James?
I'm at 305 Exeter South.
305 Exeter South, Ms. Kiana James.
Okay, because yeah, what she's saying, it does sound like she does deserve reimbursement, because they are promised a full tuition. Everything is supposed to be covered for Board of Trustees. So I do advise, I expect that it's not going to use that, and that's actually endured that. If something like that has happened, please go see her if we can.
Dr. Wright, this question is for you. So, if I'm not mistaken, I heard you earlier say that the L was not on track to be done by the fall semester of next year.
It might not.
It might not. So what are you guys planning to put in place as far as communications? Because this seems to be a trickle-down effect that affects all of us.
Right.
So what are you guys doing to minimize those effects for next year, so we don't have to go through this again?
Absolutely. So as I said earlier, on Thursday, we're having one of our first meetings to begin, thinking about where we're going to place people, what apartment complexes, what other institutions we might be working with to be able to do that. And then once that is set up, hopefully that will be done mid-semester. And then we will then communicate before the house selection process happens, so that people know what's happening at that point. But we're starting the conversations on Thursday.
Hi. So is there a middle ground that can be reached with the students who live at UNO who've had to Uber as a function of the shuttles missing 30? So it takes 20 minutes to get from here to UNO. And if the shuttle's behind, or if it's late, we got a class at 10 and it's already 9:30 and the shuttle isn't there, class gets started regardless of if we're there or not. And we have certain professors who aren't understanding enough to know that some of us live at UNO. I knew a girl who said her first week, classes hadn't even started, but her first week, as a function of infrequent shuttling, she spent over $100 going to and from Xavier. And that's on average $18 to $25. And I was wondering, as a function of that inconvenience, can we be compensated for that? Because it may not seem like a necessity to have to Uber, but it really much so is, because who wants to be either 20 or 30 minutes late or 2 hours before class?
I can't guarantee you, and I don't want to lie to you, right? So it would be a lie if I said absolutely yes. So I can go back, because I don't manage the budget in that way. But what I will say is we'll explore it, but I can't promise you anything that they're going to need to lie about it. So.
Okay, I will follow up with you on that in the coming weeks. But since he did bring up the shuttles, I do want to ask, what are the plans to address the limited number of shuttles given the increased number of students living off campus? And with the issues I've already brought to you, I have already let you know, James has let you know, we have seen shuttles leave early, stay there for 40 seconds and dip.
Right.
So
the good news is we plan to, if we can get everybody back from the Hilton by Wednesday, those drivers will then be put back into the regular cycle. Right now, when talking to the drivers, not I met today with a guy from Hudson Tours, who is the people that we buy buses from, and he gave me some numbers. But the drivers believe that we have enough vehicles, we just don't have enough drivers. Because we literally went to the Hilton on Saturday afternoon, a move-in day, when the students showed up without rooms, and the students showed up with no housing. And so the Hilton said, all right, come tomorrow. We have a good enough relationship with them that they haven't been paid yet, but they're going to trust that we're going to do that. So at that point, we did not have the time to go out and hire the drivers, because in order to get the drivers hired, they have to have background checks. And they have to have all these other things so that we can get them in, which is why last week I came to work from 7 until 5, and then I got on the shuttle, and I drove 40 hours a week, and I'm running at 1 o'clock this morning to get it done. However, we have enough, we've got one person hired, we have these 4 who are currently on the Hilton route that will come off that route, which will then be able to add a third or fourth. Right now, the UNL takes about 3 drivers each route. So we would add another person there, because there's 3 on it now, we would add a 4th one there, to be able to accommodate those numbers. I drove last night, and I don't have a CDL, so I can't drive the 25 passenger van. So I have to go back. So I hear what you're saying, right? Because there are people who get left. So I have to circle back to get them. So I'm not disputing anybody's concerns, right? But the goal, the hope is that by Wednesday, we'll start to see some relief, because we'll have those drivers who are dedicated to Hilton back deployed to the rest of the campus, and we'll have an additional person. We have another person that we're hoping to bring on to the beginning of next week, such that the number of drivers will then mitigate the time that people have to put more drivers on the ships.
And what about the second aspect of drivers that we do have not actually staying to pick up all the students?
Because then I can have corrective behaviors, right? Because right now, I need every driver who's saying, I'm willing to get behind that wheel. So at that point, then I can go in and say, hey, and because I've driven the routes now, I know what it takes. I know how difficult it is. But I also know that you need to sit there until 9:30. But yeah, that would allow us more flexibility. Mine is not going for a long time, so I want to make sure we get mine.
I live at UNO. So every day I have a class at 10 o'clock, but the first day of class, I know that I woke up for the 9:30, and there was like so many students out there, I had to wait again till the 10 o'clock to get to my 10 o'clock class, because there wasn't enough room on the bus. So ever since the first day of school, I've been waking up for the 9 o'clock shuttle. And today I waited for the 9 o'clock shuttle. It felt like it was 100 degrees outside. And you see what I have on right now. So it's not like you're not responsible for what I have on, but I waited for 20 minutes outside for the 9 o'clock shuttle. I woke up early enough to go to the cab and get breakfast, because I paid for the cab to get breakfast in the morning before my class. But I wasn't on the shuttle until 9:20. I didn't get to class. I get to the school till 9:40, and I wasn't able to eat a breakfast that would fulfill me until I'm able to go to lunch to get to my 9 o'clock class. And my suite mate also had the same problem for her 11 o'clock class, where she waited 20 minutes to get for the shuttle to come in the weather that feels like it's 100 degrees outside, and we're standing outside not knowing if the shuttle's gonna come now, if it's gonna come later, or what time it's gonna come, and we're not able to get to our class. And we had the same class together. She was about 30 minutes late to the class, and that not only like she's missing out on time classes, and you can't make up the time, and then there's a problem with fiscal. If you're more than 15 minutes late, then you don't get the attendance, and then y'all hold that against us for being more than 15 minutes late, and then you tried to take away our financial aid because we were late to the class, but the shuttle didn't come when the shuttle was supposed to come, and I was sitting in 100 degrees heat, and I didn't get to eat the food that I needed to eat to be okay for the rest of the day. So is there a way that you can fix the problem with the shuttle not coming? And then you were also driving the shuttle this weekend, and it was around dinner time. So like, it would make sense to bring a bigger shuttle for dinner. Okay. But like, I'm just saying, because like, it was dinner time, and there was a bunch of students, and you were like, oh, I'm gonna be right back, I'll be right back. And it seemed like you waited for it at like the longest time, but it was way over 20 minutes. I was pulling out the IT, and I had to get a ride another way to get to the school. And I feel like that's a great inconvenience, especially when on the weekend the schedule goes, it flip-flops, and then there's a situation where the shuttle drivers come, but they don't pick up the students, they just drop off the students. I'm sorry, I rambled, that's a really big problem.
I can tell. So, as I said earlier, the new drivers will start, we will reposition those. The other thing that I also want you all to know is that I've been working with this student named Caleb Riley, and he's also working with this student named Nikolai Harris. They're part of a class. They have an app they've created that we're trying to pilot very soon that will allow for geo-tracking of the shuttles, so that you will be able to see where the shuttles are on the route. So they're working with the faculty. They're graduating December, but then they will be passed on to the class. And the class that would be their project, but they've done a lot of really good work on it right now. So I'm at Beaver Hall, theoretically. The closest location is 2-minute walk. But then it will also tell you where the shuttles are in relationship to where you're going to. So that will also help you all. You're not waiting outside, and I promise you I can't control the heat in New Orleans, but you're not waiting outside the heat as long because you'll be able to see where the shuttles are en route. And they are working as fast as they can to get that out. And hopefully it'll be before homecoming. But they're working with their faculty, they're working with the program developers, so, and it will be a great tool that we also think will help mitigate some of it. That app will allow you to track it, so you'll see it. So what you'll do is, if we know that they're on delay, like over the weekend, Mr. Calvin will send out via the housing emails, because that's the only way that we can communicate that they're on a delayed schedule. Right, at this point, right, I don't know today, we can't go back today. So if indeed we know that there is a delay, we need to the students that there's a delay. But the hope is, again, that when we bring the students back from the Hilton, those other people will be able to hop on that route. So as opposed to now only carrying 70 students around, we'll be able to carry 90 students around from those spaces. Well, then I'll be able to let people go because I have enough people to cover different things. Dropping off and then, because the schedule, I know what you're saying. So what happens is their route is to drop you off and then they don't come back until next time because that's the schedule so that they can be able to, because at UNO specifically, they go to Pontchartrain Hall and Privateer Place. They have to drop you off at Privateer, then they'll go to Pontchartrain Hall and wait because the people are expecting the shuttle to leave at 8, whatever. So they have to then wait. They can't just come and take you back as you're standing outside. But they have an appointment with the people at Pontchartrain Hall to pick them up to come back and get you. So they're not ever going to, because you're sitting there, pick you up and take you because there's somebody at that other stop waiting for them to come and get there. Because it tells you that they're coming at 8:30. So if they drop somebody off on the way back from the University Center and it's 8:15, well then they're good. Okay. Was it the regular scheduled time to pick you up? Right. Okay, well, we can follow up with that.
So after hearing you talk about how the donors work after answering her question, I have a couple questions about the reliability. Because last semester, in like April, I received a call saying that I had a balance on my bill, which was unusual because typically my scholarship covers it all. And so it was like the last day before our classes got deregistered or something that I received a call. So I'm rushing trying to figure out how I'm gonna come up with $2K. And I'm looking at my actual billing and the discrepancies from the semester before versus that semester. And finally I'm looking, I'm like, well, there's a portion of my scholarship that just wasn't covered. So when I got in contact with the scholarship office, the financial aid department, they were like, well, it looks like the endowment just hasn't been transferred into your account, which was kind of crazy to me because it's like, this is the last day for the classes to be transferred. And I'm receiving calls saying that I have a balance, but I'm just like, why? Does that make sense?
So, without really looking at your record to understand fully what happened, I'm guessing they may have applied your scholarship. Now, there's a process called a disbursement that runs to get the scholarship to actually apply to your account. Now, I would have to take a look at your case specifically to really give you a concrete answer. But I want to say this, when we do things a little bit towards closer to the deadline of the fiscal clearance deadline. So you will run into cases like that. What I've been trying to encourage students is that when registration opens, so is it March or April? March, I believe, right? I encourage students to go in and start taking care of those things right away. The other piece is that when we give you, give me a second, let me just finish up halfway.
And so without warning, I was being notified that I had a bill when really I didn't have it, it was just covered. But the endowment from y'all's donors hadn't been transferred.
Okay.
Because I had already you know how those things like appreciation letters.
Can you give her the microphone? I can hardly hear her.
It was disheartening because, of course, I've already written my appreciation letters because I'm appreciative, but it kind of boils down to, it feels like this kind of fell through the cracks of the university, or I'm not, I just need you to expand more on how
So you already wrote a letter of appreciation, right? That's what you're saying?
Right.
Okay. In that case, if you wrote a letter of appreciation, that means you probably learned this a lot earlier than normal. So for that, I just want to say I am sorry. I want to get you a record to kind of look and see what specifically happened so that it doesn't happen again. What we're trying to do is any scholarship that is applied to your record, that we process it as fast as we can.
Is the donor specifically paying when you guys offer us the scholarships? Was the donor specifically the person responsible for not paying my endowment, or had the university themselves just not transferred my endowment to my account?
I don't know unless I really take a look at your situation. I don't know what scholarship that was and why was the disconnect. So that's why I want to get your record so that when we go, I can go back to the office and take a look and see what happened, so that if there's a mistake that we make on our side, I'll make sure that doesn't happen again.
Scholarship class, correct? Scholarship class?
No, my question is with the increase of LSU 3,000 and 1%. So I wanted to address, last year I had a 1-bedroom and it was 6,800, including the parking and the building. I don't care about the building if I don't need it. Now it's $9,000 and there's no parking. And when we followed up, you told me that Xavier wasn't making any money from it. So I went to LSU and I talked to them and they said it's crazy because they contract with you guys and they signed and nothing has changed. I also got my friend's private leasing contracts to state that the contract never changed, and I also inquired about renting my own one there just to prove to you guys that the rent never changed. So to come here now and it's $9,000 without any type of update, and we don't have no parking at which is not covered, I feel like that was a bit crazy on our end.
Right. So the rent for LSU is the same. The housing, what you're paying for is the mill plan. So the 6,100 and blah, blah, blah. That's whatever that's the correct. It's like 61 something. And then the mill plan is 2,500 per semester.
Okay, but my thing is, why did it increase $3,000 within the semester with no type of warning, no type of anything? And then, like I stated before, most of us that stay on campus, so I would get, if y'all say y'all get a building because y'all need to make sure y'all eat because y'all live in Florence, but we have our own kitchens, we bag groceries, nobody's coming back up to campus to go to y'all cafeterias, let's go eat. I'm going to the grocery store and I'm bag groceries so that I don't have to keep coming back and forth. I feel like that's inconsiderate. Even when Mike was saying, the shuttle schedule, coming here trying to eat before the class is just not realistic for us. We come here, we go to class, and then we go back home. So first of us, the pay for this bill plan that y'all know for sure that many of us not even using it. I feel like that is property. And then also looking at the bill, we're being charged for laundry use, and we have our own washer and dryer units inside the apartments. Yeah, that was just
Sure. And so, I can, Ms. Schechter can confirm, but a part of last year specifically, I know for parking, and we talked about this, parking was the university paid for parking last year, right? And but we didn't increase it by 3,000. The mill plan is the difference. So if you look at your grants, so then, and I'm going to ask Mr. Alexander Fields to look into it. But the rates that you pay for LSU is the rates that we've been charged. So either, and I don't know, you can clarify. So,
What they do with their private. I think, if I'm not mistaken, we have a separate agreement with them, and it did go up from last year. The parking, the university did pay for parking last year, but this year we added that, well, you guys had to pay for your own parking. So I'm not sure why that person would say that. I mean, I don't know if you're talking to the person that we deal with over there. And we were able to negotiate, we negotiated our own rate.
and I mean, also, I'm just getting more from the count, I don't want to go. But what, last year, the difference between a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom and a studio was not considered. Everybody had a flat rate. So whether it's more expensive to live in a 1-bedroom than it is to live in a 2-bedroom. But though I think the way it was worked, and just to clarify, is that everybody had the same rate. They discounted initially last year because you were the first people in the building. And so according, just making sure, there was a flat rate. This year you're paying for your rooms. Like if you live in DeForest, if you have a single, you're paying more than if you have a double. So there are different pay rates. So that's what's happening is that within that building, it costs more to live in a 1-bedroom than it does to live in a studio or than it does to live in a 2-bedroom. Last year, it cost the same. And they discounted so that because they were their first ones in. This year, they're charging us what they charge everybody, which is what we're then charging back to you, 2501 or whatever it is what the mill plan is. So that's why you have that number. And then the parking is $100 a month. That's what they charged us.
I see some issues, Mr. Wright, because someone did bring up that same question. Why are off-campus students who have full kitchens and can demonstrate food security required to purchase meal plans? I do want to, I'm assuming that has to do with your office. Why is that something that they have to do if they do have a kitchen that they can go to the store?
Right, and I'll take that.
Right. The second question as well, because you guys said you guys covered parking within the housing. Why did that change this year?
Because the money wasn't there. And beg your pardon, say.
You're saying y'all couldn't pay for it?
I'm
saying y'all are saying that y'all could not pay for it.
Not for this year, no. Last year, they were able to find the monies to be able to cover it. And this year, those monies aren't there. Now, we don't have it. So with regards to the first question was what? So if you go to any school, if you have a residence hall, if you live on campus in university housing, you're charged a meal plan. That is standard operating practice. Xavier's no different than Tulane. Tulane, everybody has a meal plan.
Can that not change?
Big part.
Can that not change? Like I understand that other universities do it, but say the student body is saying.
But it can't change. Because if you want a certain type of experience, we have to be able to afford that experience. So I get lots of emails from people saying, well, at Tulane, they have this, and at this place, they have that. That's how they're able to do that. It's because most institutions, that's a part of the revenue generation. And we then are able to then put that money back in. Now, there is a $7 million a week meal plan that housing has afforded to those students that is cheaper than the regular meal plan because we know that you may not be coming here for 15 meals a week, that you may come here once a day and eat. And so that is another plan, which is if you go to Tulane, if you go to Harvard, you go to Spelman, you will see that same model, which is what you want when you go to college. Juniors and seniors, I'm sorry, just corrected me. Juniors and seniors have the 7 meal a week.
Hi, so since we're on the topic of paying stuff out of pocket, so like, there's like really no transparency of like a health and wellness fee, like what is that? Because I pay my own insurance, and then the tuition went up, so I'm paying the tuition out of pocket. And then like, we just keep getting charged, and like, the parking garage is not even built. So you're paying $200 for the same parking spot that I've been parking in for the past 3 years, on top of everything else increasing. I understand that y'all don't have the money, but I'm 21, like I'm paying my tuition myself, I don't got the money either. And then like we're calling the physical today and they're talking about everybody who lives on campus is being charged a meal plan. I live in my mom's house, I don't need no meal plan. Like y'all, I feel like at this point, like y'all are making it so hard for people to afford to go to college, especially for seniors that like, I've been getting out the mud, like why are y'all continuously, everything is going up for no reason? And then you don't pay it, oh well, you did 7 semesters, better good luck charging, like that's ridiculous.
I couldn't hear the last part because your mic is away from my thing. I can talk specifically about the health fee, and then other people, if they want to talk about the other things. Specifically with the health fee, during the pandemic, the universities, all the universities around the country got HERF funding, which is government money to be able to help support the institutions as they recover from and they return from COVID. With those fees, we hired a psychiatrist, we hired additional weekend therapists, we have hired additional practitioners who can prescribe specifically in gynecology, and we had to hire additional folks in disability support services because the students who access those resources skyrocketed. And so either we maintain that or you don't have a psychiatrist on campus. And for those of you who don't need a psychiatrist, that's wonderful. But those of you who need a psychiatrist for medicine management, because if you want to get a psychiatrist, it's going to take you 6 to 8 months. If you're in a medical crisis, you need someone on campus. So we had students at the last town hall meeting said we need additional gynecological hours. We have students who need someone in disability support services to help process so they can get the accommodations. So that's what those fees go to cover, so that you can have the resources that you had last semester. And then give you a break talking about parking.
So when it comes to parking, what we learned is that we had not adjusted parking in 7 years. 7 years, the parking rate has stayed the same that it had been before. And so when we look at and benchmark other universities, their parking rates, ours weren't even close to being on par with what their parking rates were. And so we made adjustments. I understand the SGA did their own benchmarking and saw that the increases that we have are still within reason of what other comparable urban, colleges and universities are charging. So that basically was an adjustment that, again, we had not made any adjustments in 7 years. This year is when we're making the adjustments. And so there's certainly a nominal increase for students, but for those faculty and staff that also have reserved parking or faculty staff parking, their rates increased much more than the student rates increase. So that was the adjustment for parking.
I'm sorry, I was gonna have to skip. I just think that's absolutely insane that it went up 3 times, and I still gotta put my car in a pothole to get inside of the parking space. I don't know who owns that street that's in front of UC, but that has to get paid immediately.
Yeah.
It's terrible.
Completely agree with you. And so,
$250, like that's somebody's job 7 years ago to realize, hey, we haven't made an increase. Like it should have gradually went up. It should not have been $75 and then $250.
I agree with you. It should have been going up gradually every year, just like in other institutions. I completely agree with you. And so if it goes up in the future, what I've asked that we do is continue to monitor that and benchmark that with other institutions as well. So I agree with you, an increase at one time when there had not been an increase in 7 years. I certainly understand and can appreciate that being a more challenging pill to swallow. But to your point, there are a lot of things like paving our parking lots, striping those parking lots, to maintain those parking lots. We aren't able to do at the rates that we were charging. So that was, again, those are the drivers behind what we were doing. And what we're also looking at is to include like mechanical arms and parking lots to kind of restrict parking so that those who are paying for the reserved spots of factory parking, that they get to use those spots as well. So, but I'm not arguing with you. I agree with you. Generally speaking, we had not charged increased over 7 years. And it probably would have been better in hindsight, being 2020, that we had been making incremental increases over that period of time.
It's like, is there a way for us to be able to add it onto our fee bill? Like, if I have a refund, I wouldn't mind paying $250 because it's just coming out of my refund, it's not coming out of my debit or credit card. So when everything else, book bundle go in there, I don't need that.
We did hear you guys, and I spoke with Chase the other day, so we are going to, Chief is gonna make it an option so that you can charge it to your bill. However, we need to be reminded that you cannot, under federal regulations, pay for that with your finance. We can't use those funds to pay, financial aid cannot use those funds to pay with your financial aid. You will get a refund check, and then if you don't come back and pay your bill, you're gonna have $300 still on your bill, or $250 still on your bill, because we cannot take that money. That's not an allowable cost of attendance that can be that you can use your financial aid to pay for. We have to issue a refund, and then you have to come and pay for it. So if any of you get your refund check, and then 2 months from now, you're like, oh my God, I still have a $250 balance, it's because you have to still come and pay for your parking. My suggestion would be, if you get your refund check and you know that your parking was charged on your account, go right back and just pay for your parking, and then you're all done. If you have funds outside of financial aid, additional scholarships, payments that you make yourself, those funds can be used to offset the cost of the parking. We cannot take your financial aid and just apply it for your parking charges.
Thank you.
You're gonna start that, it's gonna be available in the morning. In the morning. Ms. Fields.
Hi, good evening. I just have a few concerns. First, I want to talk about students who may not have a full ride or who may not be Board of Trustees scholars like myself. So last year when the change happened where we were placed at LSU from DP, we were forced to pay out-of-pocket increase. So freshman year I stayed at Katy. I don't know the exact price, but I think it was around $5,000 per semester for room and board, and it went up to $7,000. And I know that people with full rides got to live there for free, but other people were forced without any type of notice to come out of pocket and pay for that. And I was wondering if there would be any accommodations, because I know as a student, like I have to figure out how I'm gonna pay for tuition. And then on top of that, this year, I came back to another increase. And I know we mentioned $250 parking pass, but I don't know if you all know at LSU it's $100 a month, which translates to $500 per semester, which is $1,000 per year, when it was $75 last year. So I feel like the parking should be universal, the fee should be universal, and I'm hoping that you guys would be able to offer the same price for students living at LSU and living on campus and at various locations.
So I'm going to say the same thing that we're going to look into specifically, the same thing with the conversation we had with Carter, that because my appreciation is the cost of attendance specifically for those folks whose scholarships covered, but I also think that your housing budget would shift, and that's a financial aid conversation. So I'm going to look into that with my colleagues in both financial aid and fiscal. I don't want to make promises that I can't keep. And so I will look into it. We'll get back with SGA with the findings, and we'll also have a different conversation. I can't say it's going to impact this year, but I do want to talk about parking and the universal fee. What they mean though, to be able to account for the parking at LSU, the prices may go for everybody, but I don't know. So I want to figure that out, right? Because if you're paying $1,000 a year, somebody else is paying $200. If we try to normalize it, that may mean somebody else may have to pay $250. in order for everybody to pay $250, then it might help us with that. So we need to look at that, but I don't want to lie to you today and say, yes, it will happen, or no, it won't happen. But I'm just going to look into it.
And what about as far as like the tuition, because it feels like the people who have to pay are always carrying the brunt of those schools for free.
No, that's the business model of higher education. And I'm saying that not being mean, I'm saying that when I was at the University of Pennsylvania, I did a study, we looked at the University of Oregon. They said we make our money on out-of-state students from California. That's how we allow our students to go cheaper, is that the out-of-state students are paying for that, and we're not charging them the same price. So you're right? That's a part of the business model, is that we do need a certain number of students who can afford to pay so that we can have scholarship. That's every university in the country. So I hear what you're saying, and I wish it were a different way to explain it, but that's the business of it, and I hear what you're saying.
Someone else said, like, the students who may not be able to afford to college because it's continuously increasing to where five or four now can't just pick money off the tree. Like, this is very tedious, it takes a lot of effort, long scholarships, like, people don't just have to pay, but we're forced to. So that's
Right, and I think, and this is one of the reasons that the president isn't here right now, because he's out fundraising, right? So there's all these other things that we have to be able to do to help offset the cost. But you're right. And we talk about higher education in general, that's the national conversation, that the cost of attendance for universities have gone up 713% over the last 10 years, but the cost of living has not gone up. So you're absolutely right. Your peers all across the country are having that same conversation. So I know what you're saying, and I don't want you to think that we don't.
Okay, so I had a question about parking. So since HUPD has been so eager to move cars and has increased parking fees, can we reduce the reserved spots or the garages in process, or maybe use some of the faculty lots to reserve those reasons we're paying $250 for a parking pass? And earlier this morning at 9 a.m., I was driving around for 20 minutes trying to find a park over there by Xavier's house.
So, are you a commuter?
Oh, well, I say Loyola.
I didn't hear you.
I said Loyola, but I mean, I was supposed to get, so, I mean, I don't know. I'm board of trustees, obviously, so I don't know.
When I've asked the question, do we have adequate parking on campus? The
No.
answer was yes, from the standpoint that the parking over by the convocation center.
Oh, my place on ATM as well, there's right. So me and my sister share a car, so she has the majority of her classes at Xavier's house, so we're trying to find parking there, never no parking. I have classes mostly at NCM, so, I've driven around plenty of times trying to find parking at, the convocation center as well, but if a student has a class at Xavier's house, no parking, you guys really expect them to park all the way at the convocation center to make it to class on time and then still be able to swipe in and get their financial aid from the swipe? Make it make sense, guys, like.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, and many reserve spots open, so it's like, and HUPD is gonna come with you if you park there, so.
Yeah, because somebody's paying for that reserved spot.
But they're empty all the time. And y'all just added an extra row of more reserved parking when they're not parking spaces for students, like.
So you may not see cars parked there, but somebody has paid for those spots. And the garage at Xavier South is supposed to open in the October timeframe, so that will provide you some relief to be able to park closer to Xavier South. That's the time frame right now is October where that garage will open. So for another month or so, it's going to be the inconvenience of having to park over by the convocation center, but the new parking garage is supposed to open in the October time.
Okay, thank you.
So I just have two questions. So this is back onto transportation. So I know that you were talking about like a shuttle tracker, like developing a shuttle tracker app. And I do think that would be like a good way of addressing the issue. Would this like shuttle tracker app also show how full the shuttles are, not only the location, but also how full, because that would also help people if you're anticipating getting on the shuttle at a certain time, like making sure that the shuttle actually has space for you would also be another way of not sweating.
Right, that, I don't know, but I'll ask Caleb if that's something that they can design into it. But right now, the whole function of it is that it's going to be, what do you call it, attached something under the hood. So we'd have to figure out a different way to connect. Maybe there's a back end so that the driver, because the driver, what we don't want is, if I'm driving, how much more am I take it out, right? So it's going to be in an accessible place, the tracking part. But let me talk to Caleb, because I do think that would be even better for that, because I get right now, when they move, I know how many people are on the bus. So I wonder how we can see that. But I'll find out. Good question. Kevin?
Hold on.
Talk loud.
Okay, I have another question, so, is the sizing of shuttles something that can be fixed? I know we focus heavily on finding more drivers, but I think if we just got like a larger shuttle or just a bus in general, that might be a quick way to start to address the issue.
Yeah, so we have a 40 passenger bus. And actually, when I got up the walkway, the driver was calling me, he's gonna go gas it up and he's moving with it tomorrow.
Would that be for all the residents? Because I know that, we have like maybe a 10 passengers, that little bit.
Yeah, so it will be more likely for UNO only because, like I was talking to them from Hudson, said they have to make their shuttles to be French Quarter friendly. Because like right now, we can't take the big bus over by LSU because the streets are too narrow. And similarly, we don't need it at Loyola because there's only 118 students there. We need it at Loyola, at LSU, but it won't fit down that street. So we have to use the 24 passenger ones. So that's what we're trying to get more of those 24 passenger ones and put more of them on the route. Right.
Hey y'all, so I just want to clear up a rumor that I've been hearing. I've heard that people, when they go get their like parking decal, that they've heard that the parking lot is not going to be open until like December, January. So I just want to make sure people are getting these parking passes, that they're actually going to have parking at least sometime in October.
Yeah, that's the last date that I've been given is October, when the parking lots will
For starters, I just want to say that I feel like it was kind of insensitive to compare our parking situation to other urban schools when you also have to take into consideration that you're moving a mass of students off campus in a place where they'll have to pay for parking elsewhere. So I do feel like that's kind of, if y'all want us to pay more for parking because you need more money because we can't afford stuff this year, then that's that. But let's not say that it's because we're comparing to other urban schools, when the fact of the matter is you're moving us somewhere where we have to pay more money. Well, not us, moving other people. And I'm just advocating, you're moving people somewhere where they have to pay more money. And then they have to pay more money for parking here. That's totally inconsiderate and totally unfair to put it on that. And also, I'd like to say, as far as things happening in October, the parking garage opening in October, we're getting the app in October, homecoming, all of that. I totally commend y'all for the app. I think that's a great idea. But I did email SGA and say that we need to get a Remind 101 or somebody, because hurricane season is coming. And I know for LSU, when it rains, it floods, and you cannot get the bus through there. So, that being said, if the students are having to wait 30 minutes or an hour, however long, and the shuttle driver is just sitting somewhere on the side of the road, and the students don't know where he is, there needs to be some type of message coming out, and we cannot wait till October if hurricane season is now.
So let me answer the first question. And that basically is, if you're paying for parking, you're only paying once. If someone is staying at Loyola, they're paying the parking fee at Loyola, we are charging an additional parking for to park here. So XUPD is recognizing the parking that they have to pay at one of the other institutions.
Okay.
We recognize that here, and we are giving you a parking pass for Xavier. You're not having to pay additional to park at Xavier, and in addition to what you're paying to park at.
And same for LSU?
You're just paying. Yeah, so because, as we said before, the other institution is charging us, and we're basically passing that on, that's why we're doing it that way. So you're paying for the parking at the location you are, and we're saying we're waiving whatever parking fee you might have paid here, because you've already paid it in another institution.
And with regards to notification specifically on hurricanes, there's a new emergency coordinator, management coordinator that's in the campus police. And I'm sure if you have Zula Safe downloaded, you've probably seen, today he said something about, there was somebody that's in KE. So he is very, very specific about announcing a lot of different things. So in the summer when it was flooding on streets, he will announce that. So as soon as the shuttle, absolutely, that's what I'm saying. So that app will say the shuttles are delayed from this time until further notice because of flooding and it's impassable for the shuttles to get through. That's what they ran this summer, and I'm anticipating that he would do the same thing whether it's a hurricane or whether it's when Joe Biden was at Tulane, we sent something out saying Tulane and Loyola's campuses are closed. We will resume. Secret Service wouldn't tell us when they were coming back. We couldn't give you a specific end time. We sent out saying Secret Service would close those streets. So as soon as we get information, he then puts it on the Zula Safe. Absolutely.
Okay, I wanted to reiterate a few questions that were asked, and I feel like they weren't answered. First, about the parking. XUPD is telling people when they're picking up their parking pass that it will not be ready until January. So in the sense that it won't be ready until January, I'm paying $200 for a parking pass the whole year that I won't be able to park in until January. And then also on top of that, there's nowhere to park on campus. I'm parking on grass in the street, and then I get a ticket for $40. And then it reoccurs because where can I park? But I have to go to class, and I'm also a commuter student. And then on top of that, the second question was about the residence hall dues and fees, and then a laundry fee. If I'm living at LSU and I have an in-unit washer and dryer, that's included in my rent and my tuition, my room and board. So why am I getting charged a laundry fee? And then the residence hall fee, what is that for? If you guys are not making a profit off of me living at LSU, what is the hall fee for if I'm paying my rent, my room and board as well?
I'll address the parking. You said when you come to XUP to pick up your decal, they're telling students what's not gonna be ready until January.
The parking garage will not be ready until January.
Okay, well, they're giving you the wrong information.
Okay, can that be a corrective action? Because that's, concerning to me as I'm paying my $200 and I can't park in here until January. And the $200 is, the parking garage is the increase with the $200, correct?
I'm sorry, what was that?
We're paying $200 now that we have a parking garage. That's the reason for the increase of parking, correct? Or not?
So the increase right now is to do things like restriping, repaving, the mechanical arms. So there's a possibility that there may be an increase next year once the parking garage is open. So I think the second part of the question is regarding to where do you park? So the second part of your question was, you're saying that there wasn't an answer to where do you park? And the response to that was at the convocation center.
The second question was about the residence hall fees and then the laundry fees
that we're paying and living off campus. Even at UNO, there's a laundry fee, but we have to still go and pay $150 every time you put something in a washer or dryer. And if you don't have coins, you have to load $10 onto your app that you cannot get back. If I don't use $10 worth of laundry, I can't get back my change that I have. And then also at LSU, I live at LSU now, but last year I was at UNO, so that's not gonna go $150. But if I have a washer and dryer unit, is that not included in my room and board, my rent fee that I'm paying to you, that you're paying to LSU? So what is this additional laundry fee?
So I can talk specifically about the resident fee. What I will do is I will ask Ms. Calvin and Fiscal to think about and look at the laundry fee, because that's a valid point, right?
And then what is the residence hall fee?
So that's what I'm talking about. So residence hall fee, our programming is the events that the RAs do, is having those sorts of activities that they're doing there. So that's a standard fee if you live anywhere on university housing in the country. Okay, so what she's saying is students who live at privateer place don't have a laundry fee. And she's saying, if you look at your account and you see go to her office. Yes.
I'm sorry, this whole parking cash situation still isn't sitting right with me, because I think we can all understand that, yes, we understand that things increase, but for us to go from $75 and to triple that to $250, like, this is so illustrious. Like, our seniors are going to grad school, going to med school, like, we're applying for applications, secondaries. $250, that covers about three, 4 secondary applications. So I'm having to choose between, do I want to park on campus, or do I want to secure my future? I'm sorry, I'm trying to talk to my parents about this too, because triple the price is outrageous. I can get from 75, I can go from 75 to 125. Okay, all right, okay, fair enough. 75, 150, okay, a double, but over triple, I did the math. 75 times 3 is 250, it's less than that.
So we'd increase if we'd increase $50 each year for 7 years, where would we be?
But you didn't, so look at, y'all had the 75 for 7 years, right? So also, I guess the other part is, where is it going? Where are these fees going that it just requires y'all to triple it to 250? Like, why can't y'all just like prorate it instead of saying, no, let's do 250? Like I don't, that's my question like getting across, like.
And I do think it's fair. I know we talked about getting it on the fees or whatever, but this sounds again as another, not mistake at the university, but it's a mistake at the university that you guys didn't incrementally increase the fees. It may not be, or it may not be fair to us that now we have to take on the burden as your students, as your major shareholders, because you guys now want to do a major increase.
And so
I do ask that you guys please reconsider at least. I don't know what burden is going to put on you guys, but yes, this is administration's mistake.
Yeah.
So you guys will have to do it.
So the administration making a conscious decision not to increase, I wouldn't necessarily consider that a mistake, right? We're saying that after 7 years of not making an increase, this year we have to make an increase because.
But not incrementally, like a smaller increment. Because yes, you guys didn't increase, and I guess you're like, it's not a mistake that you guys didn't do that as a conscious decision. But it can't be the reason now that you have to increase it by, like she said, more than 3 times because you didn't do that.
And so what I would say is that again, I'm with VP Wright. It is not our desire to lie to you, but I will say we have had conversations about what the market rates are for these kinds of things. And so this is an incremental increase based on where we were as a committee.
This is what they typically
I'm saying this was an incremental increase based on where the market rates were for other similar types of institutions. This wasn't. So it's a matter of.
Jackson, and I've been living on campus for a really long time. I'm an athlete, so we moved in August 3rd. I've been parking at the same spot, and when school started, I got a ticket from the city of New Orleans, not Zula Police. I'm not about to pay this ticket, so I would rather go contested, but there's nowhere for me to park. And I go to practice at 6 a.m., come back, park my car, have to go to class, and what do I get, a ticket? And I've been up for hours, and there's nowhere for me to park. And I've been to practice at the convocation center, still nowhere to park that early in the morning. It's crazy. If you're gonna have no parking signs, and you're not gonna have a parking deck, then the no parking signs have to go when there is no parking deck. That street right there, we still have nowhere to park, and right now it's cleared out. There was no warning. I was parking there for weeks before school started. There was no, let's not park here anymore at this specific spot where these people are gonna be coming through getting tickets. It wasn't even the university police. So I would feel a little bit better, even if it was university police giving money to Xavier. This is the city of New Orleans giving me a ticket on campus when there is no parking. So are there any accommodations that you guys would have for us so that I would rather keep paying $40 tickets than spend money on a parking that is not even open for me? And so it's just kind of unfortunate that the city of New Orleans is coming on Xavier's campus where there is no parking. I just feel like there's some communication. Like, if you guys are gonna have no parking signs on campus, but you're not gonna have a parking deck open or anywhere for us to park. And at the same time, like, I'm a student athlete and I've been here for. Oh, and I have a handicap sticker, and one of the ladies told me that I couldn't park in a handicap spot. So I was just like, do I need a parking pass? Do I need a parking pass and a handicap sticker to park in a handicap spot? But it's like, do I need a parking pass and a handicap sticker? Or should I just take my ticket and not pay? That's not. It just sucks because it's like this is a lot of money, $40. Like, if I'm continuing to get parking tickets, and I don't have anywhere to park, and I'm driving at 6 a.m. to the weight room. So when I come back at 8 a.m. and there's no parking for my car, it's like, where am I supposed to do? Like, I have to go to practice, and I'm not walking in the dark at 6 a.m. alone all the way to the convocation center. It's just not realistic.
There's no parking at convocation.
No, there is. I can't come back on campus, and so I need to come back to go to class and change, do all these things that we have to do, especially as an athlete. It's already hard enough, so I'm coming back from a practice at 8:30 and there's no parking. I have to take it. It's like, it just sucks.
So, unfortunately, on the main campus, right now, we only have one parking lot designated for students. And that's the lot over by DP. But we do have 3 parking lots over by the convocation center.
What do I do when I go back? I leave my parking spot, I go back to campus, look for a spot, I come back, and then that spot is taken, there's no parking. That's my issue. Like, yeah, those parking decks are full, they're not full at 6 a.m., but when I come back at 8:30, they are. And I've already left to go back to my dorm from practice, and then there's really nowhere to park.
Okay. The parking on the street, we don't manage that. So I will advise all of you who are parking on the street to be very careful and to pay attention to those signs posted. Those signs that are posted, we cannot take those signs down because we didn't put those signs up. The parking division from the city, they post those signs. So Xavier isn't the only school that they ride around and check for compliance. They're all over the city.
There's no way for y'all to advocate for us because there's nowhere for us to park. So the other schools that are getting tickets, they have parking decks that are open, so we can't park on the grass anymore.
No.
We can't park on the street anymore. We can't park in the parking deck.
Well, you can't park on the street, you just have to be mindful of where you're parking. You have to park in a legal space.
But there's no more.
There may not be any parking close to where you're going, because students want to park where it's most convenient.
I don't mind walking. I'm an athlete. I will walk, but there is nowhere. I've driven around for 30 minutes after 6 a.m. practice. I just want you guys to understand where I'm coming from. Like, I have a parking spot at 6 a.m. I don't have a parking spot at 8:30 when I leave and try to find another park. Come back to the parking spot that I was already in. That's cool. So I can park at the Walgreens across the street, CVS, but that's just not like, that's not realistic for me. If anybody else wants to park at the CVS, raise your hand. Okay, sorry. There's no parking in the back lots. It's like, you know, there's 3 lots back there. But with us not being able to park on grass, now those are getting further. With us not being able to park, and you say now they are, everyone is moving to those lots. It's not just like the lots are the same as they were last year, because last year they were moving, but now we don't have parking.
You mentioned that you have a handicap tag.
Yeah.
So is it your tag or are you using your parents' tag?
Yeah, I'm actually like post-op surgery right now, like it's my tag, and I asked the officer, she was like, no, you can't park here with the handicap tag too, so now I'm just confused on that.
Wait, so you?
In front of the UC with the handicap tag.
Right, I mean, probably, that's
Yeah, like I got out the car, like, cause we go, we have like practice at 6, we go to practice. That is usually open at 7 a.m. She was like, you can't park here with the handicap. But I was like, but I have the handicap sticker. She was like, I don't care, we're about to start walking down, which parking and.
So here's the issue that we've had with handicap parking. We have some students that may drive their parents' cars with a handicap license plate to park in a handicap space, and they're actually taking the space. Because you have to come to our office, when you purchase your decal, you have to register for a handicap tag as well. And we'll give you a handicap hang tag. So with your decal, once you register and show proof, either with something from the disabilities office or a state handicap ID, we'll issue you the handicap decal.
So I need a parking decal and a handicap.
You don't have to pay for the handicap decal. You have to register for it. But you do have to have a Xavier decal in order to be issued the handicap.
Does that cost money too?
You don't have a Xavier decal?
No, I don't have nothing in my car, clearly, because I got a ticket, and that's why I'm confused asking questions. No, I got a ticket from the city of New Orleans. I was parked on 4600 Drexel Drive, in front of DP, after waiting till the morning.
Right, no, but they're not looking for your decal. So if you were in
Right,
parking lot
right.
at Forest, you have a sticker in your car from Xavier.
No, I ain't got nothing, I have nothing.
Okay, well then you gotta get the sticker car from Xavier, then they'll give you the decal.
So which one should I pay for? Should I pay for the Xavier one, the parking decal, the parking deck decal, the ticket? This one, I'm paying the ticket, like, that's just what I was saying, like, it's.
No, the Xavier decal is the parking deck decal. When you go pay for your parking decal, they will then have you register. If you have a state ID for the disability act, they'll give you that to put in your car. But I would also say that if you don't want to get included in that.
Right, that's another thing with the city tickets. If you don't pay that fine, I think they'll ticket you twice. After the second one, they'll move your car, and you'll be responsible for paying for the tickets, the fines from both tickets, and the boot release fee. And their boot release fee, I think it's somewhere upwards of $300 to $400.
Okay, my question is not regarding parking. So, Xavier has, for the scholarships is 3-1, I believe. And after you lose the 3-1, they say, quote unquote, you have until the end of summer to receive your scholarship back. The fiscal clearance is like 2 months beforehand. And for those people who are not board of trustees or not full rides and all that stuff like that, if we're using the scholarship to pay for school, how are we supposed to get fiscally clear if we can't pay for school because you gave us until the end of summer to pay for school to get our scholarships back that we're using to pay for school? Do you understand what I'm saying?
Yes. So we actually did this year, we looked at students who lost their scholarship and are working to try and give it back throughout that grace period of summer. And so we had a list of those students. I sent them an email to let them know that we were giving them an extension on fiscal clearance until they finish their summer 2 classes, and then we recalculate their GPAs, and then at that point, those scholarships are reapplied onto their account. And they had until, I believe it was the end of, I want to see.
And then there was a whole situation when I was talking to other departments, they were like, oh, we don't know anything about this email. We don't know anything about this email, we cannot do this, we don't care, because we can't, expect for you to get your scholarship back, because we don't know anything about the email that you're talking.
Yes, no, now, did you get awarded before the end of the summer, your scholarship? Did you receive scholarship before the end of the summer? Okay. Are you on a scholarship?
Yes.
Okay, when for the fall 2024, when was your scholarship applied? So for those students, if you go back to your record, you will realize that those students who had their scholarship reinstated prior to the end of the semester, they did not receive that email because their scholarship already, we applied for their scholarship back to. And that's why I asked you, like, at what point did we reinstate your scholarship?
I don't know, because I have to pay the balances that you guys said that I couldn't get covered. I had to find the money that you guys. Oh, I haven't paid it, but what I'm saying is you guys can definitely come back. But like, it was extended, but because like, it was extended, you sent out emails to everyone, but I didn't receive it because I was in those summer classes and I was on the same track as everybody else. You sent out that email to me, and no one else knew what the email was that you received.
So,
I think like the better way to phrase it, I grew a lot about also the service way, but I think the better way to phrase it is as a university, it's possible that we could switch that deadline from fiscal process fiscal year to be after the summer class are completed instead of like, because I just feel like that's the way to keep it in mind, because I can know I'm going to pass my class, I'm going to get that scholarship back.
yes.
But I don't have that $3,000, $4,000 to pay, like, I just don't have that. For my scholarship that I know I'm gonna get back, I just like, please, switch that deadline around to that year.
Well, we can work on switching the deadline, but that's sort of what we did in the summer. Now, there are multiple groups of students that were taking summer courses. There are those that, by just looking at their record, we knew even if they had an A in all classes that they were taking in the summer, they were not going to get back to the threshold of getting their scholarship back. Now, there's another group of students that we made an exception where we say if your GPA was between 2.8 to just before 3.0, we were going to make an exception for you and get you back to 50%. But before we could do that, we needed to give you that time to finish the semester. That group of students, we sent them an email to let them know they had until the end. Now, if you were already in that threshold, that means your scholarship was reinstated way before the end of the semester. So you do not fall into that category of student that were still working to get into that threshold of GPA. So that's why I was asking you, at what point did your scholarship? Yes. Yeah, but the question that I asked was, at what point did you receive that 50%? If you received it prior to the end of the semester, so you didn't need that extension because we already gave you the scholarship. The ones that received the extension did not receive the scholarship until they finished their classes and their grades were posted to get back into that threshold. And then at that point, their scholarship were reinstated. And we gave you a scholarship way before, so you had plenty of time to get yourself clear.
So, my question is more about scholarship reimbursement. So I'm a trustee scholar, so I've had a friends this time. I've had a negative balance until last semester when I stopped getting my housing through Xavier. And I didn't think I was gonna get a refund check because I know you guys like take the money away if we don't use it or whatever, which I was fine with. But when my mom came like last semester for the parents weekend, she talked to someone from financial aid, and she explained the situation to him because she thought it was weird. And he told her that, yeah, that is weird. So he went and had to find extra money to get his money back for what I didn't get a refund check, or what I just didn't get back from me moving off campus. So I don't know, like, if we can get money or like refunds for it, I don't know why he did that. So I was confused.
Well, so, again, I'm gonna have to take a look at that. There's no way that, yeah, if you are on the board of trustees, we cover your fees, your room, your tuition, your room and board, if you live on campus. Now, if you decide to go live off campus.
No, I understand that. My
Yes.
question is more about why he had to find extra money. Like, so it's like, are you telling students they can't get money back when they can? Because why would he try to find a scholarship to give me money back for what I didn't get?
Well, you shouldn't have gotten that money.
Well, I think
He was being generous. Whoever that did that was being generous to you. You should not have gotten that.
Why would he be generous even that?
That's.
Because the scholarship have no monetary value away from the state. And so, was it one of the, online council or the trade person?
It sounds okay. Well, it sounds like you owe me money. I'm kidding. Let me say this. Let me say this. I've worked at a lot of different universities. And the way Xavier takes care of our students in terms of support for funding that doesn't compare to what some of these other universities are doing. What you come in with is what you keep, and when you lose it, you're not going to get anything else. But I understand. What I'm trying to tell you is that we are working very hard to try and find solutions for you. Even a lot of you, when you get onto your Betterware, you find that you received a scholarship that you had absolutely no idea where it came from. Simply because we're looking at every situation, your situation, we're looking at it to see, okay, this student is in a bind. This student has a high need. And we know that you're not going to be able to pay for it. But we have these funds, we can help this student. There are over 300 students that we had to go look for funds this semester to help them get clear. I'm saying that to show you that the university cared deeply for all of you. Unfortunately, we don't have unlimited funds to make it happen for everyone, but we're doing the best that we can to meet you halfway and help you be able to continue going to school here. So I just wanted to say that I know there is a lot of complaint in terms of we're charging you this, we're charging you that, but we are working overtime a lot. And this year we made a lot of exceptions with scholarships to try to make sure that this university continues to be accessible and affordable to you. this is what I'm saying. That case, normally you should not have gotten those funds. Now, this person, that,
I just want to say, typically, board of trustees scholarships do not receive a refund unless they have external scholarships that they secured on their own, or they have taken out loan funds. Also, students that are in Louisiana get the LA Go grant, and we allow those students to have refunds. So under any other circumstances, there would not be a refund if you're solely a board of trustees.
Jacob, it sounds like the guy who you dealt with, he was there.
It was more like outside stuff, but he had to find when he did that.
It was wrong.
Why he signed that?
Yeah, what he did was wrong.
yes.
That's the basic, and he shouldn't have done that, because you're right, there's another student who probably benefited from that, who needed that money, that you're saying that you didn't need. And so, in that case, he was in error. He shouldn't have done that, because he was, and maybe he didn't know enough about the policy, maybe he was new, I'm not sure. But in that specific case, he didn't do what he was supposed to have done. He should have said, thank you, here's my loan for that person. But he shouldn't give you money that you didn't need, because that means somebody else probably could have benefited from the money that you didn't need.
I was saying, I didn't know that was like something different.
No, it was a problem, he made a mistake.
What is your name again? How about Jacobson? I just found out, I'm gonna have to investigate your case to make sure that doesn't happen again.
We have another question.
An international student, and I was moved to UNO because I'm also an athlete, and my entire team was moved to UNO, which is fine, and I understand that. And going back to the parking situation, I live at UNO and I have my own car, and as much as we want the shuttle system to be reliable, we talked about it, and I understand everything that's going on. I pay my own gas out here, drive my own car, and go to campus. So being told that on top of paying my gas every week, I pay $60 a week to be able to drive my car back and forth to UNO. And I'm not driving 10 times back and forth to UNO. I'm driving in the morning, then coming back at night. And I understand the parking situation, I understand the advancement of each department, and that it was unfortunate that a lot of students were moved off campus, but some kind of accommodation has to be made for students that are paying $60 to fill their tank every week to come to school. And then on top of that, we come here and there is no parking. So I understand where y'all are coming from, but I need y'all to work with us at some point to meet us halfway. Like, yes, y'all want that $200, or not $200 increase, but y'all want to increase it from $75, but at least this year work with us, because we were moved off campus with no, warning. I found out I was going to UNO the day before I was moved to UNO. Like, that's really it. I was supposed to be at DP, and if I was at DP, okay, cool, I'll give you the $200 to be able to park on campus, that's fine. But I was moved off campus and I have to pay gas every single week to fill my tank. So you can do the math for $60 a week, 4 weeks, that's 5 months a semester. You can do the math yourself, because that's just a lot of money. On top of that, I am an international student, and I'm from a country that's about to enter a state of war, and my family just cannot provide that money for me. So I'm literally providing that money for myself on a day-to-day basis, on top of being an athlete. So I have a job, and I'm an athlete, and I'm an international student. So it's just too much, and I need y'all to work with us. So I'm not saying y'all are trying your best, and I appreciate that, but it's just something has to give. And just the answer of I don't know, and this is what it is not enough. It's just not.
Sure. Thank you.
Lebanon. I know that was going on, and I can't imagine what you must be going through. So I hope they're doing well. I also know that we've been working with athletics to make sure that they can get shuttles for the teams. So, for example, I was there driving yesterday and I saw the shuttle, the soccer team getting on buses. So Coach Bo has that option as well for those teammates to be able to get them back and forth so that you don't have to use your personal vehicle. That's one of the accommodations that we were able to make, because we just purchased a few shuttles for athletics. They just need to coordinate so that you don't necessarily have to drive back and forth. That they can use the vehicles that we purchased for the team to be able to do that back and forth. That's one of the options. And I know it would be easier to say we can give you $60 a week, We don't have that, and I hear what you're saying. But we can work with athletics to be able to make sure that for your team practice and those things, they can get you back and forth.
All right, so that was the last question. If anybody else has any questions, please make sure to ask them. We're going to send out an email. And then also too, if the guests are going to be staying, you guys can go up to them and ask questions as well.
Yeah, you guys can go up and ask them the questions, or if you still do have any. Me and James will end up putting out a video and a recap of what happened tonight. And we will continue meeting with the administration to try to still answer the questions you guys are asking.